Hi, this is Dr. Sana Hashmi. I'm a fellow at Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation. And this week in my Prince Eye on China column, I explored what are Chinese saying and doing about the continued abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty and the infrastructure development by them in Pakistan. So now they have taken this opportunity to highlight what they have been doing to make Pakistan survive this water crisis. And of course, the discourse is definitely against India. They have been criticizing, accusing India of things that India hasn't really done. So after the ceasefire, military tensions between India and Pakistan may not be as fiery these days, but that just doesn't mean the rivalry is on pause. The focus is just shifting, and it is shifting to something far less dramatic, but it is no less critical, and that is water. And in this case, interestingly, Chinese digital platform space have been paying a lot of attention to this lately. And of course, as in, I haven't really seen this much attention on Pakistan before on Chinese media. So, of course, India has been a major reason, and how Chinese support for Pakistan has been so prominent. And this is something that we have been discussing. But now I think the shift is that the support, the discourse, the discussion has been shifted from military support to infrastructure support to developmental support. So I think this is very, very clear that how the support of Chinese to Pakistan are is actually multifaceted and multi domain. So there are a number of aspects that we are seeing now. As in, of course, we have seen some covert assistance. We have known in India for a very long time that how India has been a victim of this two front threat, but now this has become more overt and more brazen. And so just last week, Chinese media announced that the Chinese funded Mohammed hydropower project in Pakistan had officially entered its filling phase. And but the coverage wasn't just about the developmental assistant. It wasn't just about progress or Chinese engineering marvel or milestones. In fact, much of the discussion was about India. And what I found was that on platforms such as Weibo, WeChat, Paito, this was framed as something more calculated, and it was a message to India. And in fact, if we go by what I saw on the in the articles on headlines, in fact, some headlines claim that China is helping Pakistan crack India's water strategy. And the framing is very clear. The framing is that China isn't just helping with this infrastructure, it is strategically supporting Pakistan and its long-standing water tension, water crisis with India. So, of course, we know that there's hardly any doubt that China has been on Pakistan's side, but then I think it is becoming more and more clear with as time is passing by. And this narrative cast India as a dominant upstream power. And using what they're saying is that India is using its geography to influence water flows. And meanwhile, China is presented as the helpful partner that is supporting and assisting Pakistan's water security and regional standing. And so, what China has been trying to do is to also change the direction of hydropolitics in the South Asian region. So, China is no more a silent player in the region. China is very much a very proactive, a very active player in the region. And in fact, on Weibo, one user even posted, and there's a lot of condescending, patronizing, offensive content on the Chinese internet. So, this was just one example that one Weibo user posted that India is a shameless country with double standards. And India is afraid of China using its position upstream when it comes to rivers such as Brahmaputra, but it is doing the same with Pakistan. So, this parallel has been prominent on a number of Chinese platforms. And in fact, some commentary goes even further, hinting at national security rhetoric, as in, of course, water is just not about water anymore. There is much deeper politics, specifically, that is going on the Chinese platform. So, to give you an example, a post on Paito suggested that an Indian strike on the Chinese built and funded Neelam Jhelum Dam marked the start of a new confrontation, one that could internationalize water tension between India and Pakistan and in the region. And of course, India has called those claims a blatant liars, and there's no evidence of India striking civilian infrastructure or anything like that. But the tone on Chinese social media is, of course, often blunt and sometimes very, very nationalistic and very much against India. And one Weibo post in this regard read that Pakistan is no longer afraid of being cut off from India, because now Chinese backed dams are the shield against India's water hegemony, or phrases like that are so common on the Chinese websites. And then another post read that India provoked three times and Pakistan showed off its Chinese built dam. And now for Pakistan, water crisis is history. So it seems as if the Chinese social media commentators and even state media, and of course, we have seen even in English that how state media has been propagating Pakistan narrative. So, but even in Mandarin, it feels that they are actually talking for on the behalf of Pakistanis and in fact alongside them. And the strategic community is also not far behind. A well-known India hawk, Lung Xingchun, is also weighing into this entire debate, and he described China's actions as calibrated, and Chinese actions are actually helping Pakistan without stoking open conflict with India. So, as in, if you look at even if you look at strategic community, we look at media, we look at social media users, I think the narrative, the consensus is that China has been a reliable partner to Pakistan. I haven't, then when it comes to China-Pakistan friendship, I haven't really come across any other narrative apart from this narrative that is kind of invoking this entire China-Pakistan friendship, this ironclad, all-weather friendship. So I think this is something that is very, very common and that has been reiterated, reaffirmed by anyone, be it anonymous commentators or well-known scholars. As in, this is very much out there. And now, when we talk about dams that are being Chinese built, like Mohammed and the Amar Pasha, they aren't just seen as infrastructure projects. They're also described as symbols of strategic cooperation and resilience between China and Pakistan. And in fact, Chinese media also is touting Mohammed's benefits for the Pakistani economy, for the regional stability, but they're also going a step further. And if I may quote one article on Paito that read that actually posed a question that um, can a dam be a shield for national security? And then the article referred to the dam that are being built by the Chinese, that the Chinese built funded dams are actually shield for national security for Pakistan. And they're actually going to assure water freedom guarantee for Pakistan that is being given by China. And in fact, some Chinese posts also tied this into a bigger issue. And I don't think there's any surprises here. Issues such as unrest in Balochistan. And the narrative that they're propagating is that India is fueling separatist movement there to disrupt projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Cooperation. As in, of course, infrastructure development is an important part of the flagship BRI flagship project CPEC. So, of course, this narrative is very much expected, specifically that is coming out of Chinese media. And then one Chinese analyst also argued that while Pakistan's reliance on the Indus water is still very much there, is still a vulnerability for Pakistan, but the solution is China. Close ties with China are helping or will help Pakistan further improve the situation and uh, uh, reduce its support on or kind of assistance or uh, from on India. And he called the Diamar Bhasha Dam Pakistan Three Gorges Dam project. And the Kalabag Dam and the Chinese discourse suggests that it's not even far behind. As in, so, there is a lot of evidence that how Chinese side has been building, has been funding, and has been preparing Pakistan, not just in the military domain, but also in the developmental domain as well as, and BRI, of course, I think India has been against BRI CPEC since 2013 and 14. But I think this is becoming a much bigger, uh, much greater challenge and threat for India. And I think China has definitely not left any stone unturned in making this a bigger threat for India. And then, but these are very much real issues for India. But then I think what is being constant on the Chinese internet is that there has been a lot of criticism of India. And there's a lot of support for Pakistan. So, one post from a youth run newsletter that is titled as the South Asian Studies Newsletter, it claimed that India's so called water hegemony, water weaponizing strategies are double edged sword. Of course, it is going to raise tensions in the region. It is going to be a problem for Pakistan. But the newsletter wrote that the idea of hydro hegemony is central to how India's water diplomacy is going to be a problem for India as well. So, this is something that is being framed by most of the strategic community, by most of the media outlets, and even anonymous, well known scholars. So now, I think the question that we need to ask right now is, what does all this mean? After the ceasefire, after now that we are seeing that the tensions have not really led to the full scale military confrontation. So, what does this mean for India? So, I think what we really need to keep this in mind, that China is just not funding dams, China is just not building infrastructure. It is now using hydropower as a form of diplomacy, both soft as well as hard. And on Chinese social media and in state backed narratives, these projects are tools for rebalancing the region, reinforcing the alliance specifically with Pakistan, and safeguarding Chinese interest and the interest that are specifically involving China Pakistan economic corridor. So clearly, from Beijing's perspective, the so called water diplomacy is about supporting Pakistan defenses against Indian influence and also about safeguarding its investment and an interest in the CPEC. So I think India needs to be much more vigilant about CPEC than it has ever been before. But now, for Pakistan, it's absolutely the assurance that it needed, the assurance that China is going to be there for it against India. But I think most importantly for India, it is a reminder that regional dynamics are absolutely shifting, not just above the ground, not just in the air, but also in the water below. And the two front threat for India has never been this real and immediate. And this is something that we have to pay close attention and we have to act quickly. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.